channel. I dropped the link for True Crime Tea if she wants to come up. So there was an arrest in the Idaho4 murders. His name is Bryan Kolberger, and he went to Washington State University. Hi, October 50, baby. Thank you. Um, let's see. I have a few things on him. So this is his mugshot, Bryan Kolberger. According to the college website, Kohberger attended the college in Pullman, which is a 15-minute drive from where the students were killed. He graduated from DeSales University in Pennsylvania in May 2022 with a Master Arts in Criminal Justice. According to NBC News, a white Hyundai Elantra was towed from the home where the suspect was arrested. So there's your white Elantra, and only 15 minutes away from where the murders happened. So this is a little weird, okay, guys? Not a little weird, a lot weird. So he put out this survey, and this is the introduction to the, and wait till you see the survey. This is wild, guys, absolutely wild. It says, research participation needed. Hello, my name is Bryan, and I am inviting you to participate in a research project that seeks to understand how emotions and psychological traits influence decision making when committing a crime. In particular, this study seeks to understand the story behind your most recent criminal offense, with an emphasis on your thoughts and feelings throughout your experience. In the event that your most recent offense was not one that led to a conviction, you may still participate. Additional surveys are included after the open-ended section as to best understand your unique traits. The study should take about 15 to 20 minutes to fully complete. Your identity and all answers provided are completed confidential, and the link to the survey is also an anonymous link. This research has been approved by the DeSales University IRB. Participants must be 18 years of age and older. If you opt to participate, you may terminate participation at any time and for any reason. If you have any questions about this research, you may contact the research team via email. And then it says student investigator Bryan Kolberger at his email address, anonymous link to the study, and then it shows the link for the study. And let me see. I thought I had I'm going to get the survey for you guys. Hold on one second. So this is information right here. Bryan Kolberger says he's a criminal lawyer. He went to school at Washington State University, and he will soon have a PhD in criminology. He's 28 years old, and he's asking for people to fill out his questionnaire on Reddit. So this is the miscellaneous docket of when he got arrested. It has the case information with the judge, his name, everything. And down here where it says charges, it says arrest prior to requisition. And what that is it means that he was arrested in a state other than the state the crime was committed in. So it's basically a hold for extradition, to extradite him. I cannot think of the freaking name right now, because he will get extradited back to Idaho to face these charges. Not sure once he gets to Idaho, I'm sure he'll have 4 charges of murder, since that's what they're about to talk about. So I just wanted to show you guys, this is Kaylee's IG, and right here, third to last, it says Bryan Kolberger, which means he followed her, but she did not follow him back, which is very sus. This is Bryan's Maddie following. Kaylee. Not following, it says, but hers says following. That's pretty weird. This is cut out, so I don't really see what it says, but it's miscellaneous docket. I'm pretty sure it's probably what I just showed. Well, Bryan Inton had this to say. This is weird too. And of course, it's probably going to make more speculation as to if he was alone. I am told, Bryan Inton says, I am told when Idaho quadruple homicide suspect Bryan Christopher Kohberger was in custody, he, quote, asked if anyone else was arrested, quote, I'm told he had a quiet, blank stare. I know I have that survey somewhere. I'm sorry, guys. I thought I had everything. Let me see. Also, I wanted to show you this. I'm not sure what this is about. I mean, I know what it's about, but I'm not sure if it's true or not. But while I look for that survey, I saw this. I don't know if you guys can read this, but it says, I hung the intestines from a ceiling fan and shoved my knife up Kaylee's blank. I'm hiding in the woods in shithole Pennsylvania. Good luck catching me. What the actual hell? Who the F says that? I don't know, John. Hold on a second. Okay, hold on. Here we go.
Thank you for coming today. Last night, in conjunction with the Pennsylvania State Police, Federal Bureau of Investigation, detectives arrested 28-year-old Bryan Christopher Kolberger in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, on a warrant for murders of Ethan, Zana, Madison, and Kaylee. I want to personally thank these agencies for their assistance in this case. Kohberger resides in Pullman, Washington, and is a graduate student at Washington State University. We will provide as much information as we can about the extradition to Idaho and the criminal process. However, due to Idaho state law, we are limited in what information we can release today until Kohberger has his initial appearance in Idaho court. I want to express my appreciation to our local community, the people of Idaho, and those throughout our nation who provided information to help us investigate these murders has been very impressive. We've received over 19,000 tips, and we've conducted over 300 interviews. To recap this case, on the evening of November 12th, Kaylee and Madison arrived home at about 1:56 a.m. after visiting a local bar and street food vendor. Ethan and Zana were at the Sigma Chi house before arriving home around 1:45 a.m. The two surviving roommates had also been in the community but returned around 1 a.m. On the morning of November 13th, a 911 call was made at 11:58 a.m. reporting an unconscious person at the residence. The call came from inside the home from one of the surviving roommates' cell phones. Moscow police responded and found 2 victims on the 2nd floor and 2 victims on the 3rd floor. On November 17th, autopsies were conducted and the Latah County coroner confirmed the identity of the 4 victims. The cause and manner of death was homicide by stabbing. Some had defensive wounds, and each had been stabbed multiple times. These murders have shaken our community, and no arrest will ever bring back these young students. However, we do believe justice will be found through the criminal process. This was a very complex and extensive case. We had developed a clear picture over time, and we stand assured that the work is not done, but be assured the work is not done. This has just started. Since November, we have remained laser focused on pursuing every lead in our pursuit of justice for the victims and their families. I recognize the frustration with the lack of information that's been released. However, providing any details in this criminal investigation might have tainted the upcoming criminal prosecution or alerted the suspect of our progress. We will continue to provide as much information as we can as the process moves forward. Today, I want to specifically thank our dedicated Moscow Police Department detectives, patrol officers, the Idaho State detectives, the Idaho State troopers, and their crime lab technicians and scientists, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation for the resources and personnel to conduct this massive investigation. It was the dedication of them and the persistence and the numerous hours that led to an arrest. Fortunately, these highly skilled people worked together as a cohesive team to solve this case. I also want to thank our community and the nation. Over the past 6 weeks, I've been continually reminded of how much our community cares. Locally, public support has been exceptional with kind words, food for investigators, and letters of support. You will never know how much your words of encouragement help us through these trying times. I appreciate each of you and each of your kindness. Agencies and individuals from across the nation have reached out to us to express their support to this department. I'm reminded how our Moscow community, our families, and the nation has been impacted by this daily. Finally, I do want to thank our media partners for the help. You kept this in the news, you helped us with tips, you kept things going, and we truly appreciate that. And you are the product of those 19,000 tips that we received, which is an impressive number. I would like to invite Bill Thompson, the county prosecutor, up at this time.
Good afternoon, folks. My name is Bill Thompson. I'm the Latah County prosecutor. And it's sad to be here, but happy to be here at the same time. As Chief Fry indicated, a criminal complaint was filed yesterday here in Latah County, charging the defendant, Mr. Kohberger, with 4 counts of first-degree murder, in addition to felony burglary, which involves entering the residence with the intent to commit the crime of murder. Mr. Kohberger, and let me preface, there's a pending case now in court, and I and my office and the investigators have to live with the restrictions that our Supreme Court places on pretrial publicity. That said, I promise you we will share with you through the court process or otherwise whatever we are allowed to. I just appreciate your patience on that. The factual basis for the charges are summarized in what's called a probable cause affidavit that is on file with the court. According to the rules of the Idaho Supreme Court, that is sealed until Mr. Kohberger is physically back in Latah County and has been served with the Idaho arrest warrant. At that time, we expect that that affidavit will be available to you so you can share the true facts with all of your readers and your watchers and your listeners and all the people who are interested and really need to know what's going on. So please have patience with us on that. We hope to get that to you as soon as we can. As far as Mr. Kohberger, I can share with you that he is a graduate student at Washington State University and has an apartment residence over in Pullman. He has had an initial appearance in front of a judge in Pennsylvania. He is being held without bond, and the warrant from our magistrate judge here also provides for no bond. We understand that he's scheduled to be back in court in Pennsylvania next Tuesday afternoon, and that a public defender has been appointed for him there. The process at this point is, since he was arrested in another state, he has the opportunity to either waive extradition and return voluntarily to the state of Idaho, or if he prefers not to waive extradition, then we will initiate extradition proceedings through our governor's office. If we do that, it can take a while for him to get here. So again, I'm asking for your patience and understand that's just the way the system works. Once he gets here, he'll have an initial appearance with our magistrate. They'll deal with issues such as making sure competent counsel is representing him, and the case will be scheduled for further hearings. Your primary source of factual information is going to be the court record, because that's what the Supreme Court says we need to refer you to. So please pay attention to what's going on in court and have people there to watch and hear what's being said. As an attorney, myself and my office, we are limited on what we are allowed by the courts to say outside of the courtroom. So please just work with us. Finally, as the chief indicated, this is not the end of this investigation. In fact, this is a new beginning. Y'all now know the name of the person who has been charged with these offenses. Please get that information out there. Please ask the public, anyone who knows about this individual, to come forward, call the tip line, report anything you know about him to help the investigators and eventually our office and the court system understand fully everything there is to know about not only the individual, but what happened and why. Next, I'll introduce Colonel Ked Wells from the Idaho State Police. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon. My name is Kedrick Wills. I serve as the director of the Idaho State Police and certainly want to express our appreciation for your attendance here today. These tragic murders took 4 young, vibrant lives from our community. Nothing we do can bring them back. The only thing that we can do in law enforcement to honor their memories that we know of is to bring this to a successful conclusion. This has been a very difficult time for the families, the university, the community, and the state of Idaho. However, it is also proven that communities come together in tough times. Certainly appreciate the support of the local community and our national audience that has been following us as our investigators have worked through this case. I'm thankful also to you, the media partners, who have helped keep this case in the forefront that generates the tips and we hope will continue to generate information that will help us to a conclusion of this proceeding. I'd like to express our appreciation on behalf of the Idaho State Police to Chief Fry, his leadership, and the entire Moscow Police Department for the way that they handled this from the very beginning. He directed the right people to the right positions that led us to this conclusion today. I've had the utmost confidence in this investigation and in Chief Fry, as well as in Mr. Bill Thompson and the Latah County Prosecutor's Office, who've been a great partner throughout this. Nothing has deterred the commitment of the investigators who've worked on this case, regardless of the organization they represent. It's been very trying and very difficult, as you know, that it has been on those investigators as they do the tedious work that they're so good at doing. The partnerships is what's led here as well. The partnerships between Moscow Police Department, I'd like to express our appreciation with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, specifically the special agent in charge out of the Salt Lake City Division, Dennis Rice, and also the work that happened in the last 24 hours in Pennsylvania with the arrest with the Pennsylvania State Police and Colonel Evanchik with the Pennsylvania State Police. We appreciate what they've done across the nation to help us as well. As Bill shared, this investigation is far from over. In fact, I appreciate what he shared, that this is not an ending, but rather a new beginning. The difference now is, as he shared, that we are dictated what information we can share by the court process and by laws in our state of Idaho. And so we will share, as he shared, Mr. Thompson is absolutely committed to share everything he can share through the court process. We've got to make sure that we don't get in front of that process. And we really deeply appreciate everybody's support here. The relationships that were forged here and the partnerships that were forged have led to this. And based on that is why we're here today. And we continue to believe that the best way we can honor these 4 lives that have been taken is to make sure that we have a successful outcome here. One of the partnerships that's been forged throughout this is a partnership with the University of Idaho. And on that, I'd like to introduce the president of the University of Idaho, Mr. Scott Green.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Scott Green, President, University of Idaho. Today's news of arrest is a welcome one. It's relief to our university, our community, and our extended Vandal family. The outpouring of support over the past 6 weeks helped sustain us during the most trying time. It provided the strength that helped us navigate the international scrutiny visited on our students and employees. We are truly thankful for the compassion and acts of kindness shown to our community. Kindness is contagious, and it provided the light that reclaimed ground lost to evil and darkness. We first want to acknowledge and thank Governor Little for the early promise of financial support that enabled the university to secure our campus and focus on helping our students and our employees in the wake of the crimes. We also appreciate the Idaho State Police and the highly visible security presence that brought comfort and calm to a community shocked and confused by the senseless crimes. We never lost faith that this case would be solved and are grateful for the hard work of the Moscow Police Department and their law enforcement partners. Vast and committed FBI resources brought important expertise to this complex case. Across the board, dedicated, highly competent personnel worked this case to arrest. This crime has nevertheless left a mark on our university, our community, and our state. While we cannot bring back Maddie, Kaylee, Zana, and Ethan, we can thoughtfully and purposefully carry their legacy forward in the work that we do. Our students come first, and that was proven each and every day of this investigation. We are committed to safely delivering the college town atmosphere, campus experience, and high-touch quality education for which the University of Idaho is known. With time, we will heal. We will move forward together, and we will remain Vandal strong. With that, I'd like to turn it back over to Chief Fry.
So now we will open the floor to questions. However, I want to remind everyone, as Prosecutor Bill Thompson explained, any factual information regarding the arrest of Kohberger is currently sealed per Idaho law and will not be released until he has appeared in an Idaho court. Please formulate your questions accordingly. I recognize there are a lot of questions, and I will try to answer as many of them as I can.
Lauren Patterson, Northwest Public Broadcasting, Spokane Public Radio. I realize the records are sealed. I guess I'm not too familiar with how it works, but can you tell us what tip, what lead, what piece of evidence really led you all the way from Idaho to the suspect in Pennsylvania?
As I've said in the past, that's part of our investigation, and we won't be releasing that this time. We will have those answers. We'll have them as soon as we can make those available to you.
Then a quick follow-up and a two-parter. Is our community safe, or is law enforcement still on the search for other suspects who might be involved in this attack?
What I can tell you is we have an individual in custody who committed these horrible crimes, and I do believe our community is safe, but we still need to be vigilant, right? We still have talked about this in the past. We always need to be aware of our surroundings and make sure that we're aware of what's going on.
Hi, Chief. How soon into the investigation did police and law enforcement begin to spot Mr. Kohberger as a potential suspect? And a follow-up, how many tips, if you can say, were specifically related to Mr. Kohberger?
To the tip part, honestly, I can't answer that question, so I'm not even going to speculate on that. On the other part, that's part of our investigation, and it will come out. I'd like the mic to please come right over here.
Thank you. Dana Griffin with NBC News. Can you confirm that Kohberger asked whether or not anyone else had been arrested when he was in custody?
I cannot confirm that, or I'm not sure of that information, but that would still be a part of our investigation.
Did CODIS initially return any hits on this guy?
That's still part of our investigation. That will come out. If we could get somebody over here, please.
And then one final question. Is there any message to the online sleuths who slandered and harassed people who they believed were responsible?
There was a lot of speculation going on, and we've always said from the very beginning that we're the official message that comes out, and to pay attention to what we're putting out there to the press.
I'm Nancy Liu with News Nation, and we were over at the house this morning, and you told us that the remediation would begin today. It was suddenly stopped. Can you tell us why?
Yes. The house cleanup has been halted, and that came by a legal request from the court.
Christina Corbin, Fox News. Chief, have you identified a motive?
That is part of the investigation, and that will come out as we continue the investigation. But what we still ask is for people to continually send us things in the tip line. We are still looking for more information. We're still trying to build that picture, just like we have stated all along. We're putting all the pieces together, and that will help.
Chief Veronica Miracle with CNN. Any indication that the suspect knew the victims?
That's part of the investigation as well. It won't be something that will come out at this point in time, but as we continue the investigation and as this case goes to trial, that will be brought forth.
Have you spoken to the families? Can you tell us what they've told you today?
Are you talking the victims' families? Yeah, we have reached out to the victims' family as we always do. We've done that daily, and we've continued to have contact with them.
Hey, Nate Sanford, you mentioned earlier that you're still seeking tips about Bryan and that people should still share whatever information they have. Can you speak at all about what specifically people should be reaching out for, like if they know something?
I would say anything and everything. As we've said all along, we know what tips we're looking for. We will take those tips and we will have professionals look at those and decide which pieces of those we need to use for our case. So we ask that everybody would do that.
Angela Palermo, Idaho Statesman. Your department and other investigators on the case took a lot of flack for keeping information close to your chest. Are you glad that you did that, and were you worried about tipping the suspect off?
I will 100% stand behind the way that we handled this investigation. And this all started from day one with our patrol officers arriving on scene, locking down the scene, us calling in the Idaho State Police, us calling in the FBI, and keeping information that was pertinent to this case very, very tight. We want to have a situation where when this goes to trial, there is no doubt that we've done everything right and we've slowed down and we've continued to slow down. We'll continue to do that.
Hey, Chief, have you guys found the murder weapon or the Hyundai Elantra?
So we are still looking for all pieces of evidence, but we are still looking for the weapon. And I will say that we have found an Elantra.
Stephanie Becker with CNN. Can you tell what it was like when you got the phone call when the police told you that they had your suspect?
I can tell you for a lot of law enforcement, it was a fairly sleepless couple of days with as we were leading up to everything that we were doing. But what I can tell you is I have faith in those agencies across the nation. I have faith in our officers. I have faith in the FBI, and they did a great job. But sure, there was some times even throughout the day that we were always concerned.
Hi, Chief. Danya back at CBS News. Can you talk a little bit more about the suspect's connection to Pennsylvania?
All I know is that he lives in Pennsylvania.
Chief Guy Tannenbaum from Nonstop Local KHQ in Spokane. More about the Elantra. We saw reports that you mentioned that you recovered an Elantra, but can you specify where that was found? And we know that that was one of the biggest pieces of information you were asking from the public to tip. Were you able to provide an information on whether those tips led to this seizure of an Elantra?
That's still part of the investigation that will come out in the future.
Chief Glenn Mosley, Idaho Public Radio here in Moscow. The additional police presence in town and on campus, semester's coming. Is that going to continue?
You will continue to see state troopers in the area. You know, we're talking to Latah County as well. You will see a presence of us that we're always have up on campus. We have assigned officers to that. So you will continue to see a law enforcement presence. I'm going to take two more questions.
Hi, Chief. Julie Scott, ABC News. Can you tell us if you eventually had a license plate number to the Elantra and how you tracked it to Pullman?
That's still part of the investigation that will come out.
Chief, hi, Matt Lovelace with the Murrow College of Communication. I want to ask about Mr. Kohberger as a graduate student at WSU. Are you aware of if he returned to campus after November 13th? And have you had any communication with departments on the WSU campus about his attendance?
So some of that is going to be followed up as we continue our investigation. We'll be asking some of those questions, but that'll come out in the near future. So what I do want to do is I want to thank you all. You really have been the national voice for us. You've given us the opportunity to get many, many tips, and I do appreciate everything you've done, and we'll continue to look forward to working with you in the future on this. So I'd like to thank you for that, and thank you for your time.
Hello, everyone just coming in. That was a tough press release conference for me. I felt the pain in each one of them that they're shook to the core. I give kudos to FBI and to Moscow police. They didn't stop. Yeah, it's over. They didn't stop. They kept on, and in 2 months found a suspect. And this suspect, mind you, went to school and has a degree in criminology, and supposedly he is a criminal lawyer, as you can see here. The questionnaire, I found the questionnaire. Let me show you guys the questionnaire, how creepy it is. So this questionnaire that he's asking people to fill out says, did you struggle with or fight the victim? How did you leave the scene? How did you travel to and enter the location that the crime occurred? Did you prepare for the crime before leaving your home? Please detail what you were thinking and feeling at this point. And then it says, after committing the crime, what were you thinking and feeling? What was the first move you made in order to accomplish your goal? Please detail any thoughts and feelings at this point. Before making your move, how did you approach the victim or target? Please detail what you were thinking and feeling. After arriving, what steps did you take prior to locating the victims or target, i.e. person or object? Please detail your thoughts and feelings. That's a little crazy, if you ask me. These questions obviously make me believe that this was planned. And I don't know, we don't know how he knows any of these 4 victims. Hold on one second, I'm sorry. I got sent a link. Let me see if I can play it for you guys. Yo, I am so confused right now. Okay, I don't know. Sorry about that. Okay, so now we have the probable cause affidavit. Let me go back to that so that I can read it to you guys. So this is the affidavit of probable cause for Bryan Christopher Kohberger. It says, your officiant is Trooper Justin M. Leary of the Pennsylvania State Police, Troop N. Since 2009, I have served as a detective with the Lackawanna County District Attorney's Office, a special agent with the Pennsylvania Office of Attorney General, a task force officer with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and currently as a trooper with the Pennsylvania State Police Troop N Vice Unit. Throughout my career, I have conducted hundreds of criminal investigations, including numerous homicide investigations. On Thursday, December 30th, 2002, the Pennsylvania State Police were assisting the Moscow Police Department in Moscow, Idaho, Idaho State Police, and Federal Bureau of Investigation with a criminal homicide investigation. On the same date, Bryan C. Kolberger was taken into custody in Chestnut Township, Monroe County, Pennsylvania, based upon an active arrest warrant for murder in the first degree issued through the Moscow Police Department and Latah County Prosecutor's Office. The arrest warrant was confirmed through NCIC with NIC. That's the first page, and this is the second page. It says nothing. He signed it saying that he is being duly sworn according to the law. Depose and say that the facts set forth in the foregoing affidavit are true and correct to the best of my knowledge, information, and belief. I certify that this filing complies with the provisions of the Case Records Public Access Policy of the Unified Judicial System of Pennsylvania that require filing confidential information and documents differently than non-confidential information and documents. And then it shows that he signs it, and that's the probable cause. Now, I have a question. First off, let me welcome to the panel John Wolf and True Crime Tea. But do you guys know if Bryan has a sister? Because this is going around the internet, and it says, can this really be true? His sister is a mental health counselor in Albrightsville. And then there's a Melissa Kohberger. Now, this is not facts. This is pure speculation of her being his sister. Counselors generally specialize in anxiety and depression in addition to other issues. If you want to see Melissa Kohberger, please contact her. You can also see how Melissa compares to other counselors in Pennsylvania. And then this says, this is crazy. As I sat this morning reeling from yet another school shooting, I found myself wrestling with which actions need to be taken to stop all the madness. What is the answer? Gun control measures? Mental health intervention? Then I received a message from my daughter, who works as a mental health therapist in New Jersey. She shared a poem she had written while in the greatest depths and despair. It shook me to my core, and I felt the need to share it. May 24th, 2020.
He's too young. Wait, he's too young to have a daughter that's an adult, I think.
No,
this
How old's the daughter? No, this was his sister.
Okay, maybe, you know what? Another thing, she may be remember that survey you had earlier?
Yeah.
That she may have been the source of that survey. Maybe he got that from her. Just a thought.
Mm-hmm.
So listen to
That's
this.
what I was just gonna say. He's hosting psychological studies. Like he has a sister who's in that field. Like makes sense.
This Melissa Kohberger wrote this poem, and it says, oh my God, I can't read it. I'm sorry.
Sure, I can read it probably.
Can you
Let's see
read
which
it?
one? Underwear. This is as I sat this morning reeling from yet another school.
No, down the
drama-
poem underneath. It says May 24th, 2022 to the
Oh,
Uvalde, Texas.
Uvalde, Texas, written by Melissa Kolberger. Bereaved of their laughter, there is now not a sound as we lower our children into the ground, small hands and feet, buried 6 feet deep into the earth of the world that failed them. As I read this poem, I thought, whatever the solution, I pray we consider the children before the gun. That
So again,
blah blah
this is
blah.
just,
Kohberger, Albright.
yeah, we don't know if this is his sister or not, but it came out.
Well, where's Albrightsville? I mean, might as well look it up. If you're gonna bring it up, I would.
It's New Jersey. They say that she was a mental health counselor.
No, that's Pennsylvania.
Huh?
Albrightsville, Pennsylvania.
Okay,
So
well, she
Albrightsville
was
is in.
moved. I don't know. They said that the sister worked in New Jersey. How close are they?
Where's they?
Pennsylvania and New Jersey.
They're
No,
common
I'm
next to
saying,
one another.
whom is saying that she lived in New Jersey?
His
The
sister.
chat. No, you're not understanding my question. Where is the information of her working or living in New Jersey coming from?
Oh, hold on. Let me see if I have it.
Because all I see here from what we've shown is Albrightsville, which is Pennsylvania. I just don't want to put out any more misinformation than it's already been put out there.
Hold on 1 second.
And he was into criminology, so anything like ology is parapsychology.
Okay, let me
Psychology,
retract that
obviously.
statement. It must be Pennsylvania. I don't know where I saw New Jersey. I'll have to find it and post it on my community wall. But I don't know. It could be a sister or not. But according to law enforcement, they want everyone to be patient. If you have any information on Bryan Kolberger, no matter what it is, call it into them. This is going to take time. This is Idaho. They have a death penalty. They have to make sure that they have everything in order if they're going to try him for the death penalty. I mean, look at how long
This is a federal case now because he was found in Pennsylvania. So Idaho is in charge of the criminal charges, but as far as like other things, it's going to be federal probably.
But
so it's probably going to move quite fast. No, it's probably going to move quite fast. They'll probably have an indictment rather than like a jury that finds him guilty. I'm assuming because I'm assuming that's the assumption. And Brian Ensign did, just to answer one of the chatter's questions, he did go cooperative and he was quiet and had a blank stare. And he asked if anyone else had been.
Deadeye Danny says he is a criminal defense attorney, but he drives his own car halfway across the country to commit the murders, almost like he wanted to get caught. Oh, no, he didn't drive that far. Well, he went to Washington State University, and he was within 15 minutes of where the murders occurred. Correct, Amy?
Right. And just to clarify, he didn't drive halfway across the country to commit the murders. He has an apartment in Pullman, Washington, which is 10 or 15 minutes from Moscow. It's literally on the border. It's the Washington part of that border, whereas Moscow's the Idaho part. So he drove to Pennsylvania after.
Right, to get away.
Allegedly, in our opinion. That's what
How
we're
old
supposed
was he? Do they have
How
his
old?
age?
28.
28.
Oh, wait, what? He's 28, yeah.
28.
So I feel like he's like got some hatred for these frat guys. I don't know if he's like a rejected, fraternity member or something. Allegedly, from what some of the rumors are going around.
Hold Hold on one second. I'm gonna play something for you guys.
It's over and only beginning. If that makes sense. They've got one suspect.
Correctional facilities across.
This isn't what I want to play. Hold on.
Hey.
Accidentally hit another button. I'm sorry.
That's the dance button.
Right?
Certainly something to that because we see
I
that
don't know.
time and time
Everything's so
again.
low. I'm sharing it right now.
Arrested for heinous crimes. I brought up Taylor's comment again, #HeyJB or #Jennifer. We can animate your comments on screen. Check out his WSU photo. His nose is curved in that photo as well. So I know that his student photo
So
is
echo.
internet. I don't have the rights to that photo at this time. Otherwise, I would display it. But people noting that curvature, that slight curvature, I guess we could call it slight, is still there, and that is obviously before the date of November 13th. Let's get to some other questions, comments. Jay wants to know, #HeyJB, is there any available connection that we have learned between Bryan and the victims? Hashtag for you as well, Jennifer. And look, that was the big question that was asked. Is there what connection, what evidence, what do investigators have? I wasn't surprised. I'm sure that you weren't surprised, Jennifer, when we kept getting the same, blanket response on almost every question. We can't say anything that would compromise an ongoing investigation. But you almost got the feeling that Chief Fry wanted to say more. Like he knows all the details, obviously. He's the gatekeeper for information, as is his colleagues with Moscow, Idaho police. But as far as you could tell, he wanted to give us more, and he can't, because can you imagine the outrage from Idaho and beyond if he gave out something that compromises the legal process? Look, silence is part of the equation right now. And that's just, it's a tough pill to swallow because people have been waiting for weeks for this day and for this to actually become reality. But in reality, we knew that we weren't going to get all that much. In fact, the information that we did get and the fact that they took questions, to me, I'm still somewhat surprised. They had several officials come to the podium and speak, take their turn speaking on the case from various different perspectives and various different perspectives and agencies. But the fact they took questions, look, I was surprised and also glad to see it because of how many people have questions out there.
Well, and remember, JB, and a lot of people want to indict this police chief for his poor communication. He hired, which I thought was brilliant, very early on with some of that $1 million funding, a company to help with how to communicate, how to do your press releases. And I think this is a true mark of probably that company's advice to involve the audience, to involve these reporters. Even if he wasn't going to be able to answer his questions, at least it showed a sign of giving them a platform to ask them so the audience could hear the question.
My phone is going crazy. And I am very well aware that, and look, this is part of live streaming, that right now there is a massive effort underway by sleuths, and I'll just call them wannabe sleuths, as far as digging into the history of Bryan Kolberger, talking to those who claim to know him, or maybe you went to high school with him. There's going to be so much focus now that we have an official name, we have an official arrest, and there's going to be so much prodding into not just his inner circle, but anyone who has any fringe connection to his outer circle. Anyone who has claimed to have a cup of coffee with Bryan Kolberger is going to come forward and speak. And look, we have a process. I want to make this clear as far as the media. And this is what countless news reporters and producers right now for various networks and stations across the country. Now the game goes into an arena where we are, validating the credibility of somebody who claims to be this person's, ex or stepbrother or stepsister or cousin or second cousin twice removed. So I understand that there's so much information, so many claims out there, but this is the hour or hours where everyone has to be extremely careful about what they believe on social media, because anyone is going to come forward and claim that this is, so-and-so person, or he did so-and-so this, or I knew that he was in this so-and-so city on this day and time. Look, there is going to be a process, and the best reporters and the best producers and the best news outlets are going to be going through a very strenuous process to be right rather than be first. And we really want to make that clear that this process is now starting. But just like we have learned over the course of this process, Jennifer, you have to be very careful what you read on social media, because everyone's just trying to generate a click. Everyone's trying to get a view. Everyone's trying to get a name for themselves and be the person who broke this news or that. And I'm not discrediting anything going out on social media right now, but we have to take it with a grain of salt when it's this new and this much in its infancy.
I totally agree. We need to touch on JB, what happened to Jack D, what happened to Jack S, what happened to the roommates. They were absolutely assaulted, indicted, convicted in social media, even as recently as yesterday. No one could or would believe law enforcement when they said they don't believe they're part of this case. And, many people said, well, that doesn't really mean anything. Nobody really ever wants to seem to take law enforcement at their word, but they're giving their word. Even when they said they didn't have a suspect, I truly believe this broke for them a couple of days ago from all we've seen and all we know now. So I agree with you, JB. We got to be careful, because so many things are going to be said that aren't going to have any basis of true fact. Some will have fact, but much will not.
And that is part of the process, and a process that is currently underway. And I'm telling you, hold on a sec. We got a live interview. Let's listen.
State of Idaho, and he's been arraigned, and those documents begin to become public. A lot of that information will come out.
Are there any indications about the extradition right now? Is he fighting it? Do you expect him back in Idaho soon?
Well, I believe Bill Thompson mentioned that he does have a court date next week. I think we have a holiday, so it could be Tuesday. I'm not for sure, but then we'll know more after that court date on how that's going to proceed.
And can you address whether the victims ever knew or had any interaction with Mr. Kohberger?
So, like Chief Fry said, we're still investigating this. We're still trying to paint that picture and find out more of the answers to the questions that we all have. And so now that we know who this suspect is, that's why we would like the public's help in any information that they have involving this individual can help us potentially answer some of those questions as we continue this investigation.
Can you elaborate on the search for a murder weapon?
Certainly, what I can tell you on the search, okay, we have issued and executed search warrants in the residence that he was located at in Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
We have located and are searching a 2015 white Hyundai Elantra. Mm-hmm. We had search warrants executed at his residence and place of work in Washington State, and those are still active and a part of the investigation.
His workplace is?
I'm sorry?
His workplace?
Correct, his office, I believe.
Okay. And I guess, the scene. How long, because the remediation was stopped this morning.
Correct.
And because of court ordered it. Do we know, why? Is that the court in Pennsylvania or a court here?
I believe that was a local court. And it was just one of those timing things that had worked out where it was very last minute. We got notification that court said we need to halt. And so that's what occurred. And that's why you folks saw that it was just about to begin and then we had to halt it. So I don't have a timeline on when that remediation may pick back up or how that's going to go. That was fresh to us today.
Where is the 2015 Elantra?
I can't give out that information. I can just say that we did recover it and we do have a search warrant for that vehicle.
So has it been processed or?
It's being processed.
It's being processed now. Can you tell me if it's in Idaho?
Again, I can't speak to where it is, but we have recovered it and we have a search warrant for it. We are executing that and searching that vehicle.
And is it the Elantra that you were searching for?
As the investigation continues, that's part of that puzzle that we're trying to piece together.
Okay. And then what do you want the rest of America to know? I guess, that stress for patients?
Certainly, we just want to stress the fact that we understand that throughout this whole ordeal, that people have been seeking answers and wanting information, and that we've been holding our cards close to our chest, as it were. However, it's for a reason, and the reason is, as Chief Fry said, we wanted to protect the case in its entirety, and also potentially not tip off the potential suspect and lose that.
And yet, we heard that you're still seeking information about Bryan Kolberger here.
Certainly. Now that we know we have a suspect, we have someone who is facing charges in these crimes, any and all information we can gather on this individual will be helpful to our case.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, we will unwire you.
Mhm.
Thank you. I appreciate you taking the time.
So I believe that was the sheriff there speaking, and getting some. They are saying that it is the Hyundai Elantra without saying it is the Hyundai Elantra. They're getting right there on the cusp of saying that it is the car without saying that it is the car. That they have the car. It's going to be put through the process of examining it, and look, and by what we are led to believe right now, it appears to be the car, but we can't say definitively that it is the car. It's part of just what we have to do in the media as far as making sure that we are not misrepresenting information from law enforcement officials. Jennifer, you know better than most as to what I'm talking about. Back here on
Real
stream.
quick, JD.
Yeah.
Did you catch that he said, maybe I misunderstood it. I thought he said 2015.
Well, no, I don't think I heard 2015.
Okay, maybe I misunderstood.
Or no, hold on. I'll ask because I was tapping into some various feeds, and I was trying to multitask, but I thought I heard well, hold on. I'll ask our audience. Did we hear 2015 or did we hear a different model year? Because of course we have
audience is great.
the audience is our audience is on it. That's why I love doing what I do, because we have such a great audience on all of our various social media comment sections. Yeah, no, everyone's saying you're right, Jennifer. 2015. Now, is there a chance that the model year was wrong? That it was, because they initially said a 2011 to 2013 Hyundai Elantra.
And this really catches my attention because I was surprised how long it took the FBI, because that was an FBI tasking across the field offices to utilize our analytical resources to do the painstaking look of registrations, go through them one by one, and then contact those individuals and trace down 22,000 Elantras. If they had the wrong year all this time, and we're really looking for a 2015, well, no wonder it took the Bureau a little bit longer than we would have all expected. Yep. So either this individual misspoke, or we've got an answer as to why the FBI took so long to track down 22,000, which I would have guessed would have been a much shorter time frame.
So I'm bringing up my computer screen here, a little Google search, if you will, of what a 2015 Hyundai Elantra looks like compared to, let's say, 2011, 2012, 2013. Now, look, they're pretty similar. The body style is extremely similar, and you know, we have to just go based on the idea that they don't have great video evidence in their possession that suggests that they know the exact model year. Otherwise, they would have said this is the model year. The fact they put out a model year range tells us that they have an idea as to what the car looked like. It sounded like they were pretty confident that it's a white Hyundai Elantra, but they were not confident in the model year. So if you look here, this is the 2015. Let's change this to just let's go right in the middle. 2012 Hyundai Elantra, and look, it's extraordinarily similar, if not the exact same body type. I'm sure there are micro characteristics of the actual build of the car that make it a little bit different. Wheels, trim, various things that you can point to. But if it is a 2015, you're right. That perhaps was something investigators go, oh my goodness, no wonder we couldn't cross-reference to Bryan Kolberger weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's a possibility. He could have also just plainly misspoke. But I want to comment right here on this Elantra. I believe they have the Elantra. And I'll tell you why. Because a judge has signed off on a search warrant for them to search that Elantra, and they had to show that it was related to this crime. They had to show probable cause of that, or they couldn't search the Elantra. So I'm going out on a limb right now, JB, since he confirmed the search warrant of the Elantra, that would be the Elantra in question.
Sounds like 2 + 2 = 4, Jennifer. And sometimes you get thrown a curveball, but that certainly is the way that it's shaping up. So if it is 2015, perhaps that is a massive clue as to, look, perhaps a massive clue as to why this is, look, and we'll find out more over the course of the coming hours, coming days. I want to make this clear too. On social media, folks, you can send me information on Facebook, on Instagram. I think Instagram, I'm usually able to respond best, just because it's the messaging platform there is just a little bit more easy for me to respond to more people over a short period of time. So Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitter DMs, all that kind of stuff. Or if you use hashtag HJB in our comment section. But right now, considering that we have more than 100,000 people watching across all platforms, it's very difficult for me to see that one comment that might actually be something I need to be looking at. So let's go back to the comment section. And Jennifer, I know I only have another 5 minutes with you, so feel free. Yeah.
No, I was just going to comment on this process so everybody understands the extradition process. So he's arrested in Pennsylvania, and they actually have to go through a court hearing. And I think back to this, is he cooperating? Did he speak at all? They wouldn't confirm that, but Bryan Inton reported it, so I feel very confident that it was said. If he waives his extradition and goes back, that at least shows some semblance of cooperation. If he doesn't waive it, they're going to have a hearing, and there's going to be a lot of information that comes out because they've got to show in a court the probable cause involved as to why he should stand for charges in the venue in Idaho. So I'll find that to be very interesting, whether they just say, hey, I'll be extradited back, or whether Mr. Kohberger says, no, let's see what you got.
I'd like to thank Jennifer Coffendoffer for joining us on stream. Jennifer, we're about to pivot to some new stuff coming in, but really quickly before we let you go, is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, just want to thank you for having me, and I appreciate it. And it's a good day today.
Thank you. Jennifer Coffendoffer, follow her on Twitter, retired FBI agent, always tweeting out a lot of great nuggets and useful information. Jennifer, always appreciate it. I'm sure I'll talk to you off stream.
Yes. Bye, JB.
All right. Take care, Jennifer. All right. Back with you here on live stream, folks. And we do have more guests lined up. Don't go anywhere, but I want to show this to you because this is just coming in from Bryan Enton's Twitter, and he has arrived at the property. So this is from Bryan Enton, our pal on Twitter. And Bryan is at the suspect's residence, where, as we understand it, the arrest transpired earlier today. And so with the suspect being taken into custody, you can see that there's clearly police tape still up around the property. I talked to Bryan Enton earlier. I think that there were a lot of people asking for Bryan to join us on this live stream. And Bryan, of course, always is wanting to join, but he was heading to Pennsylvania. News Nation sent him promptly to Pennsylvania. And as far as when we started our live stream, he was in the air. And so he just arrived at the Kohberger property. And this is what you're looking at here. And snow on the ground. You can see that there's police tape up. I'm sure to Bryan's right, near the front of the property, I'm sure that there is just an army of media. I would imagine that reporters are now breaking it for this location, and they've already been there. Look, I'm sure that many have been there for some time, but this is the first video that's coming in that I can show you here on this live stream, showing you the residence where this all transpired, again, a short time ago. So back here with you on live stream, what I'd like to do now is focus in on some of the questions and comments. as we wait for our next guest to come in. Let's go to the most current comments that are coming in. I wanted to ask Jennifer this question, Studio 10. Do you think that he had an accomplice? Look, as far as the possibility of there being an accomplice of some kind, there's this question, and then there's also, is there anybody that was aware? Was there anyone? I mean, look, of course, this is a massive question, and I'm not going to speculate as to whether or not there were more than one person involved here. I think that you can take the comments of the community is safe from the police department and from James Fry as, look, the community is safe and we believe that we have the person responsible for these murders. But as far as an accomplice, or again, kind of jump off of that, is there any chance that Bryan here told somebody, or was there somebody who had information that didn't come forward? That is also, too, a massive part of the equation now, as far as, look, because I think that it's fair to say that we are very, very fortunate that we didn't have a second incident, potentially, again, with what we know at this particular time, that we didn't have another murder incident on our hands in relation to the weeks that have been spent trying to track down a potential killer here, as far as the man on the right side of your screen. But if somebody had information and didn't come forward with information, look, that has to be thoroughly investigated. So whether or not, if we do have the person responsible for the quadruple stabbing deaths of the 4 University of Idaho students, if we have to look into whether or not, what is the timeline that exists between November 13th and today, that being December 30th, really the end of the year. From November 13th to the end of the year, police have to put together a timeline of where he was, who we talked to, and whether or not there was anybody else that could have come forward with information to make this a more speedy process as far as apprehending him, but they weren't able to. They have to do a thorough investigation. So, studio, I don't know, but this is a big part of where the investigation goes. It's not just what he is alleged to have done on November 13th and what led up to that. It's a before, during, and after investigation. You have to find out before what he was up to and whether or not, look, is this the stalker that Kaylee had mentioned? Is this the stalker that had given her, made her weary for her own safety and make her mention it to those in her loved ones, those in her inner circle? Is that's part of the before. As far as the during, what was the motive? Why are 4 dead and not 6? So many questions pertaining to the exact overnight hours as to when the crime is alleged to have occurred. And then also to the after. What happened to Bryan in the hours, days, and weeks after November 13th that led him to be able to make it as far as really home? Pennsylvania, Monroe County. Albrightsville, which is a name that we're going to have to, remember. Destiny McKinley, #KJB, what type of evidence do you think they would have had to be able to get a judge to sign off on an arrest warrant? Well, look, we're hearing that DNA is a component. CNN reporting from law enforcement sources that there is a DNA component, and that is 9 times out of 10. I don't want to say 9 times out of 10, but you get the gist of what I'm saying. That is going to be enough for a judge to sign an arrest warrant when you have, look, if you have the vehicle and you have DNA evidence, those two together, plus I'm sure a lot of X factors that we're, the public, completely unaware of at this time, I'm sure that is going to be enough to get a judge to sign off on an arrest warrant, make sure that they can do a thorough execution of the search warrant to look at his residence to try to find the weapon. But the fact that they don't have the arrest weapon, or excuse me, the murder weapon at the house, and they've been looking through the house as of right now, look, that's going to be a storyline that we're going to have to follow and continue to ask about. A lot of text messages coming in. Just, our next guest. Hold on. I'm trying to get our next guest in here. Our next guest is going to be Peter Tragos, the lawyer you know, to talk about some of the legalities here and what this process looks like from this point forward. So everyone just give me a second. We'll welcome you into the WFLA Now Stream Center and let you know that we are, of course, always on the lookout for your questions, your comments. For those of you who have been, extremely patient with us, we are doing our very best right now to try to get to as many questions and comments as possible and trying to go through some of the newer ones that we have received, because let me remind our audience that we always get the same questions over and over again. What is the motive? Is there any connection? Okay. We're working on getting Peter zoomed in here, folks. Stand by. All right. Peter will be here with us momentarily. Let's go to Nancy Liu, News Nation.
Being processed now. Another takeaway from this news conference, no murder weapon has been recovered. But as we heard, search warrants are being executed now, and perhaps we'll find out soon. I also asked about the extradition process. Do we know if Mr. Kohberger is going to fight extradition back to Idaho? Kohberger is charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder. He is due in court in Pennsylvania on Tuesday, and we should find out then whether he's going to fight extradition or wind up back here in Idaho sometime soon.
And Nancy, of course, of News Nation. We're going to be bringing in Peter Tragos here momentarily. You can now use hashtag HeyJ. I'll ask our YouTube moderators to help us out. You can use hashtag HeyJB. You can also use hashtag lawyer you know. Let's bring in Peter Tragos, the lawyer you know. Peter, I think joining us on a little bit of vacation. I also came in from my vacation for this press conference, so you're not alone. Hold on, I think you're still connecting to audio on the Zoom call there. Nope. Okay, we'll come back to Peter here momentarily. Again, we're going to be able to ask Peter some of the legal questions that might be on your mind as far as the extradition process, because we now have really option A and option B as far as waiving extradition or having to initiate extradition. If he waives extradition, look, this is going to be a way more of a speedy process, but we have no idea as of right now, unless there's been news in the last several minutes, no news as to whether or not Kohberger has voluntarily waived his right to extradition. And what that means is he's basically saying, I'm allowing myself to be extradited from one state to the other to answer to charges in the state in which they have been filed. Let's see. Hopefully now, if we have Peter, Zoom is, it's Zoom.
I can hear you.
Peter Tragos, the lawyer, friend of the program here on WFLA Now and hashtag KJB. Peter, thanks so much for joining us. Where are you joining us from? Are you skiing?
I'm up in the mountains here in North Carolina, so I'm dealing with it the best we can. But I'm happy to be here, man. This is a wild spot to be in right now for the University of Idaho before they get the students back. The timing was, I think, something that they think was a major positive and a major benefit as far as the safety of the students and moving in the right direction in a case that a lot of people feared was going cold.
Peter, I don't want to, repeat a lot of these things if you know them already, but are you kind of up to speed?
Yes.
Okay, because we have, of course, the first degree murder warrant. We have the felony burglary charge, which we learned about from this press conference as well. We learned that there's no bond, that he has made his first court appearance, and that he can either waive or Idaho prosecutors are going to have to initiate extradition, and that there's a hearing for that on Tuesday. Let me just kind of welcome you in, and you can speak to whatever you have found to be most fascinating up to this point.
Yeah, to me, it's really interesting in this process. People are asking, how quickly do we think the process is going to get started? How quickly is he going to go to trial? Will there be cameras in the courtroom? Well, the first step really is this extradition process. And if he doesn't waive it and they have to initiate it at the prosecutor's office in Idaho, it could create a major delay in the case. And the most interesting thing I found from the press conference itself was how many times they continued to ask for tips and they continued to ask for more evidence and more information about this suspect, now potential criminal defendant that's going to be charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder plus burglary, like you said. And to me, the fact that they're asking for so many tips, admitting that they don't have the murder weapon, as a criminal defense lawyer looking at this, that could mean maybe they don't have enough evidence to convict him beyond a reasonable doubt and prove these crimes at this point, which is not unusual. They have to have enough evidence for a probable cause affidavit and an arrest warrant, which is a different burden than beyond a reasonable doubt. But to me, looking at this case, maybe they don't have everything they need just yet to convict him. And they're continuing to ask for tips, which I think is great for anybody that may know this guy. Continuing to ask for tips, which I think is great for anybody that may know this guy. It seems like a buddy or an ex-girlfriend or something that knows anything about this guy personally saying, I follow him on Instagram. I text with him. He was telling me he was going to Idaho every other weekend to meet with some girl, whatever it may be. That's the type of stuff it seems like they're looking for to get more information about him personally.
Now, as far as representation, look, he has just been apprehended, and whether or not he is going to look, what are the options? The options are he has his own representation, a lawyer that represents him as far as now this upcoming extradition push. There's also him being assigned a public defender, correct? Or look, it's 2022 has been an interesting year, and you know what I'm talking about as far as representing yourself. Are those the options that he has in front of him as far as now representation as this process plays out?
Private lawyer, he can hire whoever he wants, whoever he can afford. Public defender / court-appointed lawyer, or representing himself. Those are his 3 options. It sounds like we have an interesting element of this case, like he's a criminology or criminal justice master's studying for his PhD. So does he have more knowledge than the average person about this? We will see. Highly educated guy, it seems like at this point. So we could learn a lot about this process. And there was interesting, I saw on the court docket that there was a denial for the motion to set bond. I don't know if somebody actually filed the motion or asked the court to set a bond, or if that was a decision they already made. It seems like he's already talking to a lawyer at this point. So we'll kind of see what happens in that process.
Yeah. And I'm sure that, look, family members trying to rally to get him to the best legal representation possible. Peter, you have a hat on your head, but I'm going to say you're going to put this figurative hat on your head. If you are his attorney, what is your advice?
I mean, yeah, my advice at this point, if I was representing this guy and he told me he didn't do it or whatever it may be, you're not saying anything. You're not doing anything. I would say I'm feeling like they don't have enough evidence to convict you at this point. The white Elantra they can prove was there. I don't really know what connection that has to the murder, as opposed to it was at a certain place and a certain time. That's not enough to convict somebody for murder, in my opinion. His DNA was at a house that all we heard was how there was DNA layered everywhere and how difficult it was in this case to get the DNA. Hundreds of students went in and out of that house. He could have just been one of the students from a university 20 minutes away that ended up at a party at this house, like all of the other kids that were there. We saw the video of the noise complaint. I don't know if you guys watched it on this channel, but there was a video of a noise complaint where none of the people that even lived at this house were there during that party. He could have been a kid at that party. We don't necessarily know how they're connecting the dots with this evidence or what his connection is to the victims yet. So at this point, we're doing nothing on the criminal defense side and seeing if they can gather enough evidence to actually prove that he was the one that committed these crimes. And did he commit them alone? That was an interesting question of the press conference that, in my opinion, the police officer said, yes, we think this is the only guy, without actually saying that, right? He didn't answer the question, but he did say, we got the guy that did this. The community should feel safe. We should still be vigilant, of course, about our surroundings and protecting ourselves. But at this point, we think we got the guy that did this.
Let's talk about extradition. Really big. And look, folks, #HJB lawyer, we are going to be getting to your questions and comments. And Peter, I'm going to try to keep you for 15 minutes. Am I getting greedy?
No, that's perfect.
All right, good. All right. Because look, vacation. I get it.
Hey, man.
Yeah. Well, I know you and I are both in from some days off. As far as extradition, okay, this is a big key question now. Is there any reason for him to waive extradition? Is there any reason for him to say, sure, take me to Idaho? I mean, really, any attorney is going to say, look, we're going to do everything we can to fight extradition, correct?
I think if he hires a private attorney, there's a 100% chance he fights extradition.
Yep.
If it's a public defender, I think it's more 50-50.
Okay. And reason being is because, look, a public defender is not going to put up that much of a fight and not going to pursue every avenue possible to avoid extradition. Is that correct?
It really depends, right? And what do they know about it? And if it's a public defender in Pennsylvania versus Idaho, are they going to want to fight it to use tax dollars to keep him there? There's a lot of different dynamics if it's a public defender in this situation than if it's a private attorney. But a private attorney, I think, would fight extradition, delay the process, make them prove every single thing throughout this entire process.
Let's get to some of the questions that are coming in, and I just had one and I lost it. Everybody, you can use hashtag AJB or hashtag lawyer. You know, Brian wants to know: would an attorney allow the extradition to be waived, or would an attorney fight it and make it difficult? And so you just kind of answered that, Peter. But
some would waive it. I mean, waiving it is not saying he did it. Waiving it is not.
It's not an admission of guilt.
Rolling over. Yeah.
Okay. Bree says, look, he may decide to represent himself in court. Look, that's look, and this answer might have been answered already, or excuse me, this question might have been answered already as far as his representation. So, how about this question? Alan says his parents probably have information. Peter, I can only imagine what this is like for his inner circle now. I mean, you think that you just, have a student who's, got a master's degree and now studying for his PhD in criminology. And you're thinking, my goodness, how wonderful it is that we have a son who's working on these degrees and likely has a long, lengthy career and, in criminal justice or in law enforcement ahead of him. So the shock and awe of this for those in his inner circle, starting with his parents and his loved ones, I would imagine it's got to be crippling for them, correct?
Yeah, and this isn't a DUI accident or a hit and run or something like that. That's horrible, a horrible mistake, an accident, a bad decision that somebody made that you can understand how they got there. This is a brutal crime he's being accused of and now arrested for. They're not going to want to believe that he did it. They are not the people that I would assume are going to be calling and giving tips, his inner circle. It's going to be more of, yeah, I went to undergrad with this guy and this is how he was, or I lived next door to him, or whatever it may be. Those are the kind of tips that they're expecting, not from his inner circle. It's got to be brutal for them. I assume they don't believe he did it and they're doing everything they can to help him.
Nick Rose with a good question. Hashtag KJB, can they make a federal case? Or I'll jump off of this. Is this a federal case already? We're talking about multiple states here, including really at the center of this Idaho and now Pennsylvania. So when does this become a federal case?
I expect that it's going to be a state case. I think that's kind of the trajectory it's been going the entire time. They could make it a federal case under a couple different statutes if they wanted to, but I expect this to stay in state court. And I think it's more appropriate in state court with how it's kind of gone, and we'll kind of see it follow more of a trajectory that we've seen a lot of these similar cases happen in state court.
Let's go to Southern Mama. I like this question. Hashtag Hey JB, saying, came from the lawyer, channel. Man, it's always great to have our, people that follow us here, WFLA, and people that follow you. We look, everyone intermingles. We make new friends. Exactly. Welcome to the streaming space where I absolutely love to meet new people, including Peter and so many others. You guys are like a power team. Very nice. Will they choose the best from the DA's office for this because it is so big? I don't know exactly what Southern Mama means here, but choosing the best attorney.
The best DA. Yeah, the best prosecutor they have. Absolutely. That would be my guess, is that they're going to pick the best person for this job. It could even creep into the special prosecutor discussion. If there's somebody they feel like they need to go get, maybe like we said, from the U.S. Attorney's Office, the local U.S. Attorney's Office, they're a federal prosecutor, whatever it may be, they're going to put the best they have on this job. Somebody asked me on my stream, like, small town, do they really have good lawyers? Yes, there are good lawyers in small towns and there are bad lawyers in big towns. But they need the best person for this job. And I think that's what they're going to be looking for. But lawyers are generally confident in their abilities. So I'm willing to bet that the lawyers in this DA's office think they can handle this case. And I hope they can.
Larissa Budzinski, excuse me. Hashtag Hey JB. Do you think his background in criminology is why they're keeping everything close to the vest, or maybe because it'll be easier as far as jury selection? Excuse me. I have a response to this, but Peter, why don't you go first?
So I don't think his degree has anything to do with what law enforcement's doing in this case. I think they're keeping it close to the vest because they knew he ran and they were trying not to allow it to. I think they've been following that white Elantra with CCTV videos, with gas station videos, with tips and things like that. And I didn't think they wanted to make it any easier for him to try to hide, to try to escape, try to get rid of evidence, whatever it may be. That's why I think they were playing it closer to the vest, personally speaking, but I don't know that answer.
Yeah, and I'll just say that it is so common practice for these press conferences and for the aftermath of a massive arrest that kind of permeates, goes from just, you know, local news to really everybody knows news. It's so commonplace for there to be, you know, so just really almost zero information as to how somebody was apprehended for a crime. This is really the status quo. This is really the playbook, the textbook, if you will, for how investigators go about this when it comes to releasing information to the media. So look, that arrest affidavit, Peter, it's going to come out. It's going to tell us a whole lot, and I'm sure that we'll be on our respective live streams when it comes to breaking it down and everything that we know, because that will become, as you know, Peter, will become public record at some point. And really, but the next step is this January 3rd extradition, correct?
Yeah, that's the next big step, is extradition. We get over that hurdle, then stuff's going to start happening. We're going to start learning a lot more. And I liked what basically everybody said is you're going to get the facts, you're going to get the truth from court. So come to court, watch the court streams, look at the court docket. That's where you're going to get your facts, not from anybody individually. So I think that's good. I think that's the cleanest and best way to do it.
Lydia, hashtag HJB, do you think that if DNA evidence was used, they got a hit in CODIS? Or do you think that they are getting or got a warrant for his DNA/fingerprints? You know, how the DNA evidence comes into play is a fascinating thing. CNN, again, reporting, and I'm sure that others have spoken to the same sources at this point. But that there is a DNA break in this case, a forensic examination of evidence at the scene that matches Kohberger. So as far as whether or not they got a hit or whether or not there were alternative means to match the DNA, look, that is likely at the center of this as far as them being able to proceed with an arrest and proceed with filing these charges, right, Peter?
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to all have to be proven that it was done above board and done appropriately. Somebody on my stream said they read a report that they got his fingerprints in the system because he was fingerprinted for a security job, which would kind of go in line with criminology or criminal justice majors. So that's a potential way that can happen. I've done videos on my channel about how you can waive these rights without even knowing it. When you get certain jobs, when you go TSA pre-check, when you do certain things and you give your fingerprints out, they can then use them in situations like this. So he could have done any number of things to make his fingerprints basically have public access from law enforcement. Some
individuals out there are within a database for DNA or fingerprints. Others are not, but that's a very, very interesting point. I just had a great, oh, here it is. Destiny wants to know, hashtag HJB, in this case, do you think a conviction is riding on the murder weapon? They don't, Peter, they don't have the murder weapon. So how much of a focal point is that for the investigation now?
I think it's going to be a major focal point for the defense in this case. But I do not think that it's riding on the murder weapon. I think there have been plenty of cases where they have convicted defendants without murder weapons. It's a much higher percentage of conviction than the no body, no crime saying. That's a much more difficult situation if they don't have the victim's body in a case where there is a murder that they're trying to prove. That's a much more difficult situation, a lower percentage of conviction rate. When you talk about no murder weapon, I think they can still get it done without that. But it does seem like they are looking for more evidence and looking for more tips to get enough, to stack enough, to put this puzzle together, to have enough evidence to prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt.
Let's point out the incredibly obvious, if we will, for just a second. There's a period of about 6.5 weeks between November 13th and his apprehension here in the end of December. As far as that murder weapon and the fact that let's remind our audience, he's got a master's degree in criminal justice. He was studying to get his PhD in criminology from Washington State University. Anybody with half a brain, Peter, is not going to hold on to that murder weapon for very long. And with countless states, well, not countless, but a lot of states between Idaho and Pennsylvania, and all of that time, there is just a myriad of endless ways for him to dispose of that murder weapon if it is in fact if Kohberger is in fact the person that did this crime, correct?
So it's more surprising, based on exactly what you just said, that he still had the same car.
Right.
That he
That's, I
didn't
was thinking the same exact thing, and I'm sure you and I were going to talk about this off stream, but I was shocked that if the car is in fact the car, the fact that the car wasn't disposed of or left at the bottom of a lake or something like that, that interesting. That no.
Well, not just that, but again, putting the criminal defense attorney hat on. How many thousands of white Elantras in 2013 did they say they looked through? So if that's your big connection, and that's how you're going to prove that he did it with no murder weapon, then I'm going to say, yeah, this guy's got a PhD in criminology. So they're going to say, oh, he disposed of the weapon. He knew to do that. JB's talking about how obvious that is. Obviously, he's going to do that, but he's not going to get rid of the car.
Right.
He didn't get rid of the car because he didn't do it. And he didn't do it because there's a million white Elantras. That's the arguments they're going to make. Those are the types of arguments they're going to make. It's thousands of Elantras. This guy's in Pennsylvania, and they think he did it. We'll see if there's black box data. There's all sorts of things they can get there to prove that it actually is the car. But again, there's a lot of pieces to this puzzle still that we're going to see if law enforcement and the prosecutors can put together.
Because if he disposes of the Elantra and it's found by somebody, then the immediate question is who owned this Elantra. It points them to Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, and it points to a potential suspect. But it must be fascinating. That if you are in Pennsylvania, if you're in Pennsylvania and you're watching all of this news unfold and you hear the detail, you hear the media reports about them looking for a white Elantra, and you
would never think it's your neighbor that drives the white Elantra. You'd never think it's the one parked right here. Like, I'm in North Carolina. If I saw a white Elantra parked right there, I'd be like, no way, that couldn't possibly. I'm 2,500 miles away from Idaho.
But Peter, if you're Kohberger, I get what you're saying. If you're Kohberger, though, you have two options: either hold on to the car or you dispose of it. And really between those two options, you have you just kind of laid it out perfectly as to the mindset of what you do in this given situation. So the fact that he had the car is interesting. And again, we have to remind people if it is the car, because we've heard from law enforcement, they say that they have an Elantra, not the Elantra, and there's a big difference. Peter, I have kept you your 15 minutes. I really appreciate you joining us. We're Peter's Peter, you were sitting right here next to me a few weeks ago, counting down the top 5 court cases of 2022. It is always a pleasure to talk to you, my friend, and pick your brain and talk to you about our legal system here in this country. Before I let you go, I know you're going to be doing a whole lot more with this on your respective channel. What can folks look forward to, and how can they follow you?
Yeah, the lighting was a lot better there, JB. I'm sitting next to the window, and it went from light to dark on me while we were talking about this case. So sorry for everybody that can't really see. Lawyer is my YouTube channel. I'm a personal injury lawyer in Tampa, Florida. My firm also practices criminal defense as well. We've handled a lot of cases that deal with issues that we're going to be dealing with in this case. So one of the things we do on our channel is we break down this legal process to help everybody understand what their rights are, understand the civil and criminal justice system a little bit better from a lawyer's perspective. It's not a whodunit channel. We're not reporters. We're not journalists. We're not investigators. So we break it down purely from the legal angle. We're going to be talking extradition. We're going to be talking probable cause. We're going to be talking evidence gathering. We're going to be talking proven cases like this on our channel. And I'm happy to come on with JB anytime and talk about this stuff. It's always interesting and thoughtful discussion on this channel that I really enjoy. And everybody that watches my channel, I tell them to come over here and check this out as well, because it's a different angle and you can learn a lot from different kinds of channels coming together. Yeah.
And likewise, Peter, I try to send people your way because again, there's endless questions when we talk about stories like this, and questions that really get into the intricacies of each individual jurisdiction's legal system. Talking about how Pennsylvania is different from Florida, or how Idaho is different from Pennsylvania, and being able to hear your expertise. Everybody, folks, give a follow over to Peter's channel, The Lawyer. If you've been with us here in WFLA now before, you've been with him. He's a friend of the program and friend of mine. Peter, great to have you, and go back and enjoy the rest of your vacation.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Take it easy.
Yeah, you too, pal. We'll talk soon.
See you, man.
All right, back here with you live on stream. We're going to spend it up here, everybody, because we've been going now for approximately 2.5 hours. And what we'll do is we'll stay on stream for another or so, a few minutes, and we'll talk to you guys. Let's just kind of have an informal sort of chat.
Hello, it's me again. I wanted to show you guys this website that I saw someone post. I'm really not sure. It's just like, I don't know. I'll read it to you guys. Okay, here we go. Idaho murder suspect Bryan Kolberger had OCD eating tendencies. The suspect in the stabbing deaths of 4 University of Idaho students worried his family with his bizarre eating habits, according to a relative. Speaking exclusively to the Post Friday afternoon, a former aunt of Bryan Kolberger said his dietary restrictions were very, very weird. It was above and beyond being vegan, said the aunt, who declined to be identified but said she was previously married into the family. His aunt and uncle had to buy new pots and pans because he would not eat from anything that had ever had meat cooked in them. He seemed very OCD. Obsessive compulsive disorder is common and long-lasting condition where a person has a repeating pattern of thoughts and fears which lead them to complete repetitive behaviors. In my opinion, this was his first step into becoming a possible serial killer. Kohberger, 28, was arrested in a pre-dawn raid in Scranton, Pennsylvania, Friday in connection to the November 13th murders of Kaylee who was 21, Madison 21, Xana 20, and Ethan 20 at an off-campus residence in Moscow, Idaho. At the time of his arrest, records indicate Kohberger was a doctoral candidate in criminal justice at Washington State University in Pullman, just 10 miles from Moscow. The university removed his student profile page shortly after his arrest. Online records also show Kohberger obtained a Master's of Arts from DeSales University in Center Valley, Pennsylvania in 2022. Notably, his DeSales email was tied to a cryptic Reddit post about a study he was planning about the emotional and psychological conditions of would-be criminals. And I'll show you guys that survey again because it's quite weird. A white Hyundai Elantra matching the description of a car that investigators had identified as being near the crime scene at the time of the murders was also confiscated from the scene of his arrest. Kohberger's DNA has also been matched to samples recovered at the crime scene of the deaths, according to CNN. After appearing briefly in Monroe County Court Friday morning, Kohberger is set for another hearing on January 3rd about his pending extradition to Idaho. Speaking to the Post on Friday, Kaylee's grandmother said the family was relieved by the arrest. Now, I want to say something about, let me see. Okay, let me see now. And I want to say, people keep talking about, I hope that answers a lot of your questions, Brenna. It's okay. So I want to say this. A lot of people keep talking about his size and how he couldn't commit these murders by himself because he's a small, scrawny dude. Let me tell you, my ex, who beat the shit out of me off and on for 8 years, was a scrawny little dude. He was 5'5", and his waist was a 29-30. Very scrawny dude. And he beat me so much. One time I was unconscious for 2 days. It is very possible, especially if you're in a rage, emotionally. It's very easily for a small person to to do this crime. And that's all I want to say about that. I don't know. It's just very possible. Let me see this right here. I wanted to show you guys. Well, I kind of showed you guys this, I would call it a business card, something. Bryan Kolberger, psychology, effort PA, and his favorite memory or quote is, "It is the mask of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it." Aristotle. And this is from DeSales University, where he went before he went to Washington State University. And then this talks about the car, the white Hyundai Elantra that I actually just read off of that website. Yeah, Sophie, it's possible, and I really didn't want to bring that up, but I needed to show that it is possible that he did it alone. And I will tell you one more thing. And this is speculation, in my opinion, allegedly, due to my past. When my ex beat me like that, he was on meth. And that's all I'm going to say. I'm not accusing anyone of anything. I'm just going to say, and I think that made him with intense angry rage and, to be more powerful. So that's all I want to say about that. Just in my opinion, with what I have gone through in the past. And with that, I have been live for an hour and 43 minutes. I hope you guys learned things that you didn't know about this case. Finally, someone is going to face the justice system for this crime, and we will have justice for these 4 victims, and maybe their families can kind of get some peace and go on with their lives. I really appreciate everyone that stuck with me through this live. If you're watching the replay, thank you. Please hit the like button, subscribe, and hit that bell to know whenever I go live again. And thank you everyone again for coming in and supporting me. And y'all have a great rest of your day. Thanks.